I'm Julia, and welcome back to Race to Win, the sailing podcast. Today I'm back with Will Paxton, a 6-time National Express 27 champion and a quantum sailmaker in San Francisco, California.
Hey, Julia. Good talking to you. I'm here to talk about my favorite midwinter series. I've been racing this since I was a junior sailor, about 23 years sailing midwinters in the Berkeley Circle, and I'd like to share some insights. This is race 4 of a 4-month series, and we have a 5-point lead on the second place boat. So what we're looking for here is somewhat of a conservative start. We just need to beat Ergo or finish within a few boats of them to win the series. Wind speed here is about 9 to 10 knots true.
San Francisco Bay is one of those places where winds can shift very rapidly. And in this race, it turned out that the sailors were able to fetch the windward mark from either end of the starting line. What this means is they did not have to tack at all in order to round the first windward mark, and they didn't have to jibe in order to get to the leeward mark. In a race like this, the start is incredibly important. It's pretty much the whole race, because if you get behind at the start, it's going to be really hard to catch up. Will always does his homework and makes sure to leave enough time before every race to sail that first upwind beat. Because he did that, he knew there was a big shift up at the top here, a header. You don't want to be the upwind boat when you're sailing into a header. As everyone gets headed, the boats that are further upwind are going to turn down and end up pointing right at those boats to leeward and falling behind. So, taking into account a lot of factors, Will figured that the winning start was probably somewhere in the middle of the starting line. But you see, Will didn't need to win this race. He was 5 points ahead. So he decided to stay out of the battle and just to start all the way at the pin end in clear air on port tack and just make a beeline for the mark. Let's see how that worked out for him.
So here's our starting strategy, is that we come in hot on port, and anybody that tries to lee bow us or attack in our face, we can blow through with speed. So that was Athena going by, and then here comes Ergo, the second place boat in the race. They could have lee bowed us, they could have faced us, except we were coming in so fast. Boom, we just cut by our stern right there. They could not face us. And the issue here, because the mark was layable on port, every second you spent on starboard was a loss. So because we just blew through both those guys, the one off to our left, that was a loss. We've already passed them. They're done. So the only danger here is the winning start was halfway down the line on port, and that's where Wile E. Coyote and a couple other boats are down there. So right now, we are wide open, reaching Traveler down, lead down, going as fast as possible because our pre-race start check said that there was a big header at the end. So what we're trying to do right now is do the geometry and foot to the header and beat the lower boat sailing a shorter course with speed to the header.
Will got the start that he wanted and was able to get ahead of his main competition, Ergo. But one boat did get that midline start and get ahead, Wile E. Coyote.
But they actually crossed us by 2 boat lengths at the top by virtue of the header, and they're a very well-sailed, very fast boat. And we were not able to close that 2 boat lengths down all the way around the race course.
Although Wile E. Coyote wasn't carrying a tracking device, we were able to pick them up on the video feed.
Oh, here it comes right here. Here's Wile E. Coyote winning the race to cross us. And this is it. This is the race right here, this cross. Everybody to our left was way overstood. Everybody to our right was closer to the mark than us.
It struck me as I was watching this how important it was for all the competitors to get out, like Will is always preaching, and sail the windward leg before the race. Competitive sailors, everyone knows that's something that you should do. So I asked Will, how many people does he see actually going out and doing this homework before the race?
Only 2 or 3 boats actually show up and sail the weather leg. And, I grew up sailing as a junior sailor. My dad was a coach. We had some amazing coaches at the Richmond Yacht Club junior program. One of our best coaches was Mike McQueen, and he was a professional motorcycle racer. And that was like the most important thing, to show up to the course and run the course before the race.
And guess what the meaning is behind the name of Will's boat?
It's Motorcycle Irene, or Mike McQueen, motorcycle racer. But if you didn't show up to the course and run all the jumps and take all the turns before the race, you were at a huge disadvantage from someone who had already done it. So if you show up to the race course and you haven't done that first beat and logged some compass headings, you're at a big disadvantage. And in this race, the entire race was all about the start, the angle, and the first beat, and the rest of it was just postscript. It was very, very critical to show up and run the first weather leg.
When you can fetch the windward mark from the starting line, there's not going to be a lot of opportunities to create passing lanes in a race like this. The start was very important, and the boats finished pretty much in the same order that they rounded the first mark. However, this was still the final race in the series, and with Motorcycle Irene in first place in the series and Ergo in second, they had to try something to get ahead.
You can get frustrated in a parade race like this and try and force something to happen. And Ergo is a very well-sailed, very fast boat, and they were trying to be aggressive. And they were basically, if you watch Motorcycle and Ergo, you see exactly what was happening between Motorcycle and Wile E. Coyote as we were trailing behind them about the exact same distance. So here you can see Ergo is straight in line and doing the conservative thing. So Ergo decides to foot out and try and find a lane around our bad air to leeward. And this definitely had potential to create a passing lane, but you can see I footed back down sort of. I just kept a clamp on that. I honored the threat. Basically, when they went to foot, they were footing for a header, and if they started to gain, the cover move is just a foot with them, and it doesn't matter how far you go, as long as you keep going fast and maintain the geometry to cover. And if I get 5th and he gets 6th, I win. If I get 10th and he gets 11th, I win. Never let that guy go.
We finished up by talking about the exact sail trim settings that Will used to get the maximum speed out of his boat in these conditions.
Well, this is just it's a very situational occurrence where this may happen in a one design race where you are coming in on a port tack ley line at the top of the course and lifted. This happens in the Berkeley Circle a lot, and you're overstood. So instead of the main washing out, what you want to do is blow the lead out or let the car aft. Ideally, what you want to have is the floating lead, which we have in most of the top Express 27s, where the lead goes all the way outboard, allowing you to put the boom low and the boat to go very, very fast without the main washing out, because you want to keep the slot open between the main and the Genoa. Because you can see, if you look up at the draft stripe of the Genoa right there, you can see the camber of the sail and how straight the exit is. And you can see how it matches the exit of the main. So there's no drag at all between the two.
Will went on to explain that it's not only important to keep the slot open in these kind of conditions, but to also make sure that you're maintaining a neutral helm.
So because we were the weathermost boat and we had a clean lane, we could go as fast as possible. So as fast as possible, we had our inboard lead eased almost all the way out. You can see the reaching block is straight between the clew and the override bar to the winch, and that the traveler is down on center line. And what that does is it makes sure that there is very little load on the helm and the boat can go as fast as possible.
And how exactly do you find that sweet spot when you're actually out there?
You ease the main all the way out until the main almost flogs, and you pull it back in until the helm goes neutral. If you let the main all the way out, you'll get negative helm and the bow will drop down. If you pull it in too tight, the bow will head up. And what you want it to do is be as loose as possible and fast. You do want to have no rudder drag at all. You want the helm to be in the middle of the boat. You want the bow to be down. And you want the telltales on the jib to be streaming on both sides.
I just want to say thank you again so much, Will, for joining us.
Thanks, Julia. I'll really enjoy sharing my racing insights with you, and I look forward to next time.
Well, thanks again to Mr. Will Paxton for an awesome race breakdown. I know I learned a lot, and I look forward to seeing you next time here on Race to Win, the sailing podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can find more on our website, www.racecues.com/podcast.